Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into something that is, well, it's as fascinating as it is unnerving. We're talking about the hidden forces, the invisible strings that are quietly pulling at human behavior every single day. I am so excited to dive into this with you, because once you grasp these concepts, you're literally never going to look at your daily interactions the same way again. We are talking about the deep and honestly, sometimes shadowy mechanics of the human mind. So I want you to really think about this for a second. What if most of your choices actually aren't your own? Think about the last thing you bought, or the last time you mindlessly opened an app, or maybe even the last time you agreed to a favor when you were totally exhausted. We all love to believe we're the conscious architects of our own lives, right? But the reality of human behavior tells a completely different story. We're incredibly vulnerable to things like social media addiction, subtle emotional manipulation, and environmental triggers that totally bypass our logic. And that brings us to this really uncomfortable truth. Most people are psychologically controlled every single day, completely without realizing it. Just let that sink in. I know, it sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's pure, documented psychology. You are constantly being nudged, influenced, and sometimes outright manipulated by the tech you use and the people around you. But here's my promise to you. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to see these tactics absolutely everywhere. And more importantly, you'll know exactly how they work. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The brain loves manipulation. To really understand how we get controlled, we have to look at our own biology. Our brains basically leave the back door wide open for this stuff. On one hand, you've got rational thought, right? It's slow, deliberate, analytical. But on the other hand, you've got dopamine cravings and instant emotional reactions. Here's a crazy fact. Your brain processes emotions in the amygdala about 100 times faster than it processes logical thought. So humans are quite literally wired to react emotionally first and think logically second. It's an old survival mechanism. But in the modern world, it means if someone or an app can trigger your fear or your need for validation, they can bypass your rational thought entirely. Emotionally highly charged people are just infinitely easier to control because their logical defenses are lowered by their own biology. Which leads us to this absolutely chilling reality. Your brain can become addicted to people the very same way it becomes addicted to drugs. Think about how a slot machine works. The anticipation, the unpredictable reward, the flashing lights, that is a massive dopamine loop. Now think about your phone. The ping of a text, a new like, that little burst of online attention. When a person gives you unpredictable attention, sometimes they're super warm and then suddenly distant, they are triggering the exact same addictive dopamine hits in your brain as a drug or a slot machine. You aren't just attached, you're actually chemically addicted to that validation. Moving right along to Section 2, Unconscious Behavioral Tells. But how do these manipulators actually give themselves away? I mean, if this is happening all the time, there have to be clues, right? Fortunately for us, humans are pretty terrible at hiding their true subconscious states indefinitely. Psychologists call this unconscious emotional leakage. Basically, the subconscious reveals true intentions way before a person's words ever do. We're talking about things like a fake smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, or sudden, weird tone shifts in a conversation, strategic delayed replies that are purposely designed to make you anxious and crave their response, or maybe uncomfortably intense eye contact meant to dominate rather than connect. Oh, and mirroring behavior, where they suddenly adopt your exact hobbies and mannerisms to create this false instant connection. You see this all the time in the workplace, and definitely in dating. But here is the thing you absolutely have to watch out for. The most dangerous manipulators do not look like villains. They appear totally calm. While your emotions are completely spiraling because of all the confusion they've introduced, they remain perfectly composed. And that calm facade, it's not peace, it's control. That is exactly where things get truly disturbing, because it makes you feel like you are the one who's losing it. All right, let's look at Section 3, Social Media Mind Control. Let's step away from interpersonal manipulation for a second and look at that little screen in your pocket. There's a famous saying in the tech world, if an app is free, your attention is the product. The engineers building your favorite apps are not just putting together fun features, they are meticulously engineering human attention. Every single color, the exact speed of your scroll, every notification chime, it is all highly optimized by behavioral psychologists to hijack your mind and keep you endlessly scrolling. Honestly, it explains why half of us are walking around like zombies bumping into lampposts. But seriously, you are not the customer here. Your time, your data, and your visual focus are what's being harvested and sold. And this brilliantly illustrates the real issue here. Social media algorithms literally do not care about what makes you happy. They only care about what keeps you on the platform. The data is crystal clear. Outrage, fear, and comparison anxiety generate infinitely more engagement than positivity or authentic connection. They spread like wildfire. The algorithm intentionally feeds you content that makes you angry or gives you extreme FOMO because those negative emotional states create a vicious loop. You scroll more just to numb the exact anxiety that the scrolling caused in the first place. It is weaponized psychology at its absolute finest.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, Everyday Dark Psychology Tactics.
Okay, bringing it back to the real world. We aren't just manipulated by algorithms. We experience this constantly in our friendships, our relationships, and at work. Let's break down some clinical terms for behaviors you've almost certainly lived through. First up is love bombing. Now, this isn't just someone being nice. It's a highly calculated attempt to influence you by totally overwhelming you with attention, gifts, and extreme affection, usually right at the start of a relationship. It creates this sudden artificial emotional dependency. They make you feel like the absolute center of the universe, so your dopamine spikes. And then, when they inevitably pull away, you will do almost anything to get that high back. Then we have gaslighting. This is for sure one of the most damaging tactics out there. It's manipulating someone into questioning their own perception of reality, their memories, or even their sanity. If you've ever heard someone say, "That never happened," or "You're being crazy, you're overreacting," when you know for a fact what you saw or heard, yeah, you've experienced this. The danger here is super profound, because if a manipulator can convince you that your own brain can't be trusted, you literally have no choice but to rely entirely on their version of reality. Next is the silent treatment. Now look, taking some space to cool off after an argument is totally healthy. The silent treatment is not that. It is the deliberate refusal to communicate, specifically to invoke guilt or establish psychological control. It's an aggressive form of manipulation completely disguised as passive behavior. By withholding communication, the manipulator forces you into a corner where you have to chase them, apologize, and accept fault just to restore the peace. When you stack all these tactics together, you really have to confront a super dark reality about certain relationships. Some people don't love you, they love controlling you. Real love requires a basic respect for the other person's autonomy. Dark psychology relies on the absolute destruction of that autonomy. They love the power they hold over your emotions, not the actual person you are. Let's move to our final area, Section 5, How to Protect Your Mind. I know all of this is heavy, it's intense to realize just how vulnerable our minds really are, but hey, you do not have to be a victim to this. Here is a clear, step-by-step protocol to armor your mind. Step 1, observe behavior patterns. Stop listening exclusively to what people say and start paying close attention to what they do over time. Words can lie, patterns rarely do. Step 2, control impulsive reactions. When you feel a sudden, huge spike of anger, fear, or extreme validation, just pause. Don't react right away. A manipulator relies on your fast emotional response. Step 3, limit social media dependency. You've got to break that dopamine loop. Put the phone down and reclaim your attention span. And finally, Step 4, cultivate emotional intelligence. Get to know your own triggers, because if you know what makes you insecure, nobody else can use it against you. Because ultimately, awareness is your absolute greatest shield. The moment you understand human psychology, you stop becoming easy to control. Think about it. A magic trick only works when the audience has no idea how it's done. By simply being here, engaging with this explainer, and learning these concepts, you are stepping right behind the curtain. You are taking back the remote control to your own brain. But I want to leave you with one final thought to reflect on today. Maybe the scariest part isn't the manipulation itself. Maybe it's how normal it has all become. We just accept algorithmic control as using our phones. We accept toxic communication as just relationship drama. But now that you actually have the vocabulary for it, I challenge you to look really closely at your world today. Observe the ads, observe your timeline, pay attention to the conversations happening around you. Once you open your eyes to the psychology running quietly in the background of our lives, you will literally never be able to unsee it. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and stay aware out there.